Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pops Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Walker Garrett, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large Counselor. Connie Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your City Council.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 27th meeting of the Columbus City Council. We have a lot of visitors here today. We have Texas Central College is here out of Fort Benning. If you guys want to stand up and let us recognize you. Thank you so much for being here. We have some other visitors. I'll let the city manager recognize real quick, and then we'll get on down to business. If you want to turn on the city manager's microphone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Most of you know I teach a course at Columbus State University in their Master's Public Administration program, and I have two students visiting with us tonight, and I just asked them to stand. Three. Tiffany.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
You're all very special, but we love it when students come to see how the government functions. So we very much appreciate you being here. And as you all know, we have a full schedule every night, but tonight is going to be a particularly long meeting. So we will try to keep it moving along. We appreciate you being here and appreciate your business before council. So as we always do, we need a little prayer. We have an invocation that's going to be provided this evening by Rock Evangelical Presbyterian Church Senior Pastor Sunman Park is here. And Pastor Park, if you would come forward and provide us with an invocation consistent with your faith tradition. Okay. Good evening.
Ms. Mayor, may I say some thanks before I do prayer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. I'd like to say that really my present and comfort of ministry for my church and also my personal private ministry for my family members are based on your wonderful effort with sometimes tears and sweat. Also I have 4 children, all of them grown up in Columbus since 1985. They are grown up now, but my church so prosperous, and so I'm a pastor of a very minority. It's mainstream is Korean Americans. They are enjoying wonderful life in Columbus, Georgia. That's great privilege. I'm so honored to pray and bless you, this afternoon. So may I pray?
Yes.
Okay, let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, in the government center and the council meeting room, and at the beginning of this meeting, we praise, bless, and glorify you for your loving kindness and tender mercies. I now lift up the mayor, the 12 councilors, and all the politicians who are so eager, sincere, and faithful in serving Muscogee County residents into your almighty bosom. Lord, strengthen these public servants with your heavenly peace, that they may not be discouraged in exercising public service in this secular world. Lord, occupy these public workers with your spirit, that they may not feel despair while fulfilling their duties in this egoistic world. It's not age to promote public welfare, so strengthen them with the heavenly wisdom and understanding and the patience with generosity. It's not easy to protect the public safety, so fill their spirits with the heavenly patience and peace. I pray for recovery of remaining family members from miserable shootings at a high school in Florida. I pray for physical and mental strength of all the patients from uncontrollable overdoses of opioids. I ask that you pour out your protection upon all the people in the public fire and police departments who are giving of themselves sacrificially and facing dangers. And after spring break, I ask that you bestow your blessings upon all the people involved in the area educational systems, school board members, principals, associates, staffs, teachers, paraprofessionals, cooks, maids, janitors, maintenance workers, school bus drivers, school crossing personnel, that they may guide and nurture our children and youth with sincerity, justice, and knowledge. I pray all those things in Jesus' merciful name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Park, thank you so very much. We appreciate what you and your congregation do for this community, and thank you for sharing those words with us. Now we have a very special student from Britt David Magnet Academy, and we'd like to call you forward, please, here, and we've got a microphone for you. We are going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you all would stand and prepare, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, introduce yourself and tell us how old you are.
Hi, my name is Amara Harper, and I'm 10 years old, and I'm the secretary of Britt David Magnet Academy.
Wow, fantastic. And who's that with you? Go ahead and introduce yourself, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Erica Edenfield. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Britt David, and I'm the faculty representative for our student council. She is our secretary. She was able to be here even though it's her spring break.
Yes, well, thank you for being here during spring break. It's always hard for us to find somebody to volunteer, and we appreciate you for being here. And I know your mom and your sister are here. Wave, Mom. Wave, sister. Thank you guys for the moral support, and we hope you'll come back and visit us again real soon. Thank you. Let's give her another round of applause, folks. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and jump right in. We've got our Chief Judge of the Recorder's Court here this evening. We want to introduce Judge Julius Hunter. Please come forward. We've got a Recorder's Court Oversight Committee report. And I believe, Judge Hunter, you wanted to kick it off and introduce some folks?
Sure, yes. Madam Mayor, to the members of council, Mr. City Manager, Mr. City Attorney, Madam Clerk of the Court, members of the audience, and citizens of Columbus, I'd like to take this opportunity to formally introduce to you, our new Chief Clerk of the Recorder's Court, Ms. Donna Willingham. Ms. Willingham's been here since December of last year. She is married to the Reverend Bruce Willingham, who is pastor of University Avenue Assembly of God. They have 3 children and 2 grandchildren. And as I said, she's been here since December. What we're trying to do in Recorder's Court is to make the experience as pleasant as possible for people who come to the court, both inside and outside of the court. And Ms. Willingham is all in. She's literally hit the ground running since she's been here. She brings to Columbus a wealth of experience. She previously served as the clerk of the probate court in Ware County, and she most recently served as the chief assistant clerk of the probate court over in Macon, Bibb County, Georgia. So she brings that experience with her. She has great ideas that she wants to implement here in Columbus based upon her experiences with her prior work in the courts system, things that have worked there in Macon and Ware County, and things that are working in court systems across this state. She wants to make that happen here in Columbus, and I guess literally bring us into the 21st century. And so she, as I said, has hit the ground running. And so what she's going to do, and I'm going to go ahead and let her do this, she's going to present some of the ideas that she has for our court here in Columbus, Georgia. So at this time, I would present to you Ms. Donna Willingham, Chief Clerk of the Recorder's Court.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good morning. Good evening. Thank you, Judge Hunter. Mayor, councilmen and women, and city manager. I just want to give you a report. A little bit louder?
You might have to
Okay.
crank it up a notch. I think that's pretty well positioned, but maybe just speak a little louder.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to give you an update of things that are going on in Recorder's Court. Since I've become the chief clerk there, we were doing 3 courts a day, and we decided in February that it might be advantageous on a trial basis to split up the courts. The problem that we're running into is courts are running really, really long, and so sometimes you'd be there till 7, 8 o'clock at night. So once we split up the courts, now we're doing Motor Squad and DOT on other days. Motor Squad is every Tuesday, but we're also having the regular jail and traffic court as well. Just to give you an example, last week in Motor Squad, we had 256 charges in court in the morning session and 330 charges in the afternoon session. So that was a total of 6 hours of court just in the second courtroom, not including what was going on in the first courtroom. So as you can see, splitting up the courts was a necessity that we needed to do. And by doing this, hopefully more revenue should come for the city as well. Another thing, before, sometimes the judges weren't even getting lunch hours because court was going so long, and still, from time to time, judges still don't get lunch hours because court runs longer than normal, and you never know from day to day what's going to happen in the court. But the goal to splitting up the courts is to get the police officers out earlier, get them back out on the streets quicker. We've got a good rapport with the Columbus Police Department, with the state troopers. I've had several meetings with them. Individuals can also pay tickets all the way up until court time now, where before they were not able to. They're on probation. There was no fee. Right now, if a person comes to court and they have a fine and they need to pay it, we're giving them up to 2 weeks to pay the fine without having to pay all the extra probation fees. And since we've started doing that, there's been an increase from January till March in 2017. They had 278 people on probation. This year, because of the new changes that we've implemented, there's been 695 people that have been put on probation. So that's 2.5 times the amount that we had previously from the year before. So as you can see, court has really, really increased. Another thing that we're doing is some results from reorganizing the court is attorneys, public defenders, and judges are getting out of court quicker. It's a very rare occasion if they have to stay past 5 o'clock in the afternoon now. We're also working on online payment system, and I appreciate the city manager and the finance staff in working with us in doing that. It's a proven fact that in court is who we're thinking about going with, but there's been a proven record that up to 60% of the people pay online. So we feel like that would really benefit the court system as well. Because right now, if you get a ticket and you live in another county, in another state, you either have to send the payment in by check to the court, or you have to actually come to court on the day that you're supposed to be here. So if we had the online system going, it would help make things go a lot easier, a lot faster, and also help with the amount of time spent in court. Also, I wanted to explain, there was a gentleman this past week, he's an elderly gentleman, probably around 80 years old, and he had gone and he had sat in court all day long, and when he came out of court, he was so upset, he was almost in tears, and he said, I don't know what to do. He said, I thought I was supposed to be in court, and I don't want to be held in contempt of court. Well, what happened was the gentleman got confused. He had gone to the wrong courtroom. And so I took him aside and I explained to him, I said, listen, we're not going to hold you in contempt of court. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. And we set up another court date for him to come back the next morning. I said, we'll have you come back in. We'll try to make sure you're one of the first ones on the docket. And that way we can get you in and out. Well, the man was so happy. And the next morning he came in smiling. He was able to go to court, get out of court, and go back home. But we have instance after instance of people that maybe somebody's never been to court before. I had a lady the other day that came into court, and she had never been to court. And when they were reading off the list of names, she had no idea she was supposed to come forward when the names were being read. So I just talked to her, and I explained everything about court, what she needed to do, and we were able to take care of her. The dockets are being assigned to specific clerks now, where before dockets were given out and there was a bunch of different clerks working on a docket. And so it would get very confusing. If you're in charge of a docket and you go into court, you have to know your docket, you have to know everything about it, and you have to communicate with the judge in the courtroom. So now one clerk is being assigned to each docket. That way they'll know their docket and they'll know how to go forward with it when they do go to court. We're also training more clerks on how to call court. As far as the personnel goes, we've established a chain of command to handle complaints. We've also established a court calendar that shows when doctor's appointments are and vacation times are. That way, if somebody knows they've got a doctor's appointment, they can look on the calendar and they can say, oh, well, I can't take off at this time to go to the doctor because so-and-so's taken off, and they can rearrange their schedule appropriately. There's also established lunch hours now. Cross-training has begun. We're trying to cross-train everybody so that not just one person knows how to do a job. We've also started accountability time cards. That's been put into place. And everybody all the clerks now are certified in the security and integrity training. And all the judicial office is certified in the GCIC, NCIC. I'm working on getting the other clerks, everyone trained in that area. I just wanted to read you a portion of an email that was sent to me this week regarding personnel. This was from a gentleman. He wrote me and he was talking about a clerk in the office, and he said, she was polite, friendly, respectful, and a pleasure to work with. I even witnessed her speaking to a disgruntled customer after me, and she displayed the same positive energy and tone with him. And that's the type of customer service that I want people to get when they come to Recorder's Court. I want them, because it's hard when you come to court, you're dreading it, you've got a lot of things going on, and I want it to be a pleasant experience for those people. So we're really working on customer service in the office. As far as the office goes, we're reorganizing how the office is run to try to make it run more efficiently. I asked the director of the State of Georgia Archives to come down last week, and he met with us. He didn't charge us to come down. It was at their expense. He pointed out a number of things that we needed to change, and we started changing those things. We've combined the job descriptions with the goals and objectives. We've started streamlining the budget. We've eliminated the surplus property because we had a lot of stuff sitting around that was falling apart and dilapidated. So we've sent a lot of things to surplus. Also, the computer system is updated. When I came, the judge didn't even have a computer hooked up in his office. He now has a computer, and we're working on getting him a laptop. But thanks to Forrest and the crew with the IT department, they have been very helpful in everything that we've done. We've ordered a wireless microphone for the drive-through window because instead of spending $4,000 to replace the whole thing, I said, there's nothing wrong with the drawer, we'll just replace the microphone. So we've done that. Also, the bathrooms were disgusting, the public restrooms. When you went in, people were stealing the toilet paper out of the bathroom stalls, and so we've replaced it with the big rolls of toilet paper. They were taking the soap out of the bathrooms. We've replaced the soap with the soap dispensers. We've ordered the blowers for the bathrooms because in public buildings sometimes you get a lot of different people, and they were taking wads of the paper napkins that we had in there to wipe your hands with and putting them in the toilet. The toilets will overflow, and so we've ordered blowers for the bathrooms thanks to the maintenance department, and those will be installed as soon as they come in. We've got a special mop and special cleaning solution to make the smell a lot better in the restrooms. We're also redoing the data systems and the filing system. Right now, things are filed by month, and I said, why are we filing them by month? So we're changing that to file everything by year, because when you go to do the retention schedule, you don't throw away by month, you shred by year. So we're in the process of rechanging all the filings in the filing system. All the old records have been shipped to storage now, and LexisNexis has been ordered for all the judges, and we're organized and define work responsibilities for all the employees. So, but one thing that we do need in Recorder's Court is we need cubicles. We're getting ready to do construction and to combine both offices together, because that's all part of cross-training, so that not one person knows how to do a job. And in order to do that, I really need to have cubicles put in. And the cubicles will cost $21,000. They'll also have the internet, the phone, and the computer connection in the cubicle. So that will help the office run more efficiently. Right now, when two people are out in the office, it presents a problem. But once we get everybody cross-trained and everybody in one area, then when two people are out at the same time, that won't be a problem. We're even cross-training supervisors. And right now, the public, when they go to a window, you do one thing at one window and one thing at another window. But once we combine everybody into one office, they won't have to go back and forth between windows. Everything can be done at one window. And down the road, there also might be a possibility of personnel savings as well. Okay? Does anybody have any questions?
Well, it's a wonderful list of accomplishments, and so we congratulate you on so much being done in a relatively short period of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know there's some particular things you wanted to address today. I believe you had several requests for budget adjustments. Is that correct? Tonight, is that something that's supposed to be approved tonight, the cubicles and the, I just want to make sure that we get all her business done that we need. Mr. City Manager?
They've got a couple of things that we need to address, and at least if there's direction from council, then we'll try to identify funding sources. But you heard Ms. Willingham mention that they added some court sessions, and those court sessions were not funded in the current budget, and so obviously there's a cost associated with that that's not budgeted. You heard Ms. Willingham mention cubicles. That's not budgeted, and so there's a cost, and I think I heard her mention $21,000. And I believe that those are the two things that
Okay.
we'll need a funding source for that's not budgeted, and you need to approve, at least if you're interested in funding those things, and then we'll figure out where the funding will come from. But in accordance with your ordinance, I believe it's 1339, when a department head is going to exceed their funded budget, they've got to come to you here at council in advance of exceeding that budget to get your approval or direction. And then, of course, we've always got to figure out where the funding comes from. So those two things you need to consider those tonight.
Okay. And Ms. Willingham, do you have a monetary amount for the new sessions? Has that been quantified, or Angelica? Do you know how much you're asking council for?
And then the finance director will mention that there's a salary for the interim person that you brought on that is not budgeted, that needs to be considered in that total. So do you have a total on that?
Well, in my and I'm sorry for my voice, in my conversation with Donna, as far as the salary monies, to cover what hasn't been budgeted for specifically, we need about $11,000 as far as the salary money. So it's about $11,000 in the salaries plus the $21,000 for the cubicles, for a total of $32,000.
And that's with the new sessions, and the salary for the interim is $11,000, and then the cubicles are $21,000.
Yes.
And
Okay.
so let me just be clear, that includes the additional court sessions?
Mm-hmm.
The 11,000,
Yes, she had some salary savings in her budget. There was a position that's been unfilled all fiscal year that has sort of offset some
okay,
of the.
good.
Okay, great. Okay, we've got a few counselors.
Yes.
So we've got new sessions for court and salary for an interim position, $11,000, cubicles, $21,000. Mayor Pro Tem.
Good afternoon, good evening. Let's see if I understand. Let's talk about the court sessions. How many sessions have we added?
We've added 9 more court sessions per week.
And they're being staffed by whom?
They're being staffed by other judges, because we have 4 judges in Recorder's Court.
We have 9 sessions, and we have 4 judges already.
Right. Judge Hunter is the full-time judge, and then we have 3 part-time, or 3 other judges.
And that's Judge Buckner.
Judge Buckner, Judge Joyner, and Judge Wilson.
Okay, so that's the 4 judges.
Mhm.
And so there are 5 judges, 5 sessions that have to be staffed, 5 additional sessions that have to be staffed that's not budgeted for, right?
There's 4 judges total, and then 9 additional sessions that were not included on the original budget.
That's
9 sessions
Oh, so
per
it's-
week,
per week.
So it's 13,
There's 9 sessions per week.
okay?
How many current sessions, and
How
then you
many current
added?
sessions?
Yes.
We do an average of 19 to 21 courts every week.
I'm trying to understand this. We have 9 sessions, and we have 4 judges.
No,
Each-
we do about 19 to 21 sessions every week. Now, originally, we were doing 3 times a day, we were doing court, and 1 Saturday court. So we were doing 16 courts per week. Okay, so we've increased that.
How many sessions each judge normally has?
I'm sorry, I
How many
didn't understand.
sessions does each judge normally have?
Okay. Judge Hunter does Monday through Friday, all three courts. Then Judge Joyner and Judge Wilson are swapping out on Saturday courts. And then the fill-in judges, which on Tuesdays, we have two courts. And so Judge Joyner has been doing those. And on Wednesday, we have every other week, we also have two courts. That's our environmental court. Then every other month, we have DOT, which is one afternoon every other month. So we're using the part-time judges, and then Judge Hunter is doing all the courts in courtroom number 1, which is 3 courts a day, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
So, Mayor, Madam Mayor, what that means is that every month, we're doing a Tuesday session, a morning session, and an afternoon session. If there are 4 weeks in the month, that's 8 additional sessions. If there's 5, that's an additional session. And then every other month, we do an afternoon session for DOT. So those are the additional courts that we weren't doing before we tried this experiment in order to lessen the load and try to get officers out back on the streets and also get citizens out of the courtroom and back to their respective places of work and home and what have you. But those are the extra sessions that we weren't doing before February.
Okay, now, I heard her mention you, Judge Joyner, and we also have, it's 2 of the judges.
Judge Wilson and Judge Buckner.
She didn't mention Judge Buckner sessions.
What the pro tems do is they fill in. Right now, Judge Joyner and Judge Wilson are doing the Saturday sessions, and currently Judge Joyner is doing the motor squad sessions on Tuesdays. That's what's happening right now. But again, basically the pro tems are, they're paid per session. And what we're looking at is those extra sessions is basically what needs to be in a new budget, those extra sessions.
Judge Buckner is not a pro tem, or is she?
Well, she is considered a pro tem, but she still is on salary at her regular salary.
So is she paid regardless if she's paid regardless of whether she serves?
Yes. And the other pro tem judges are paid per session.
So that $11,000 includes funding for those additional pro tem sessions.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. All right, we've got Counselor Thomas.
Mayor, if we want to handle this before I make some remarks, I don't know how you want to.
Okay, we've got Counselor Baker. If you're saying if others have questions,
Yeah, and
okay.
and then put me back in line.
Okay, gotcha. Counselor Baker.
Hey, I was just curious as to what time period the 11,000 covers exactly.
Well, that, when Donna and I were discussing the sessions, and we looked at the remainder of the fiscal year, so that is essentially it covers the end of March through the end of June.
Okay.
And is that because they had some savings that they were able to cover the early
Yes.
portion?
they
So
had
just
a
want to make that clear.
position that's been vacant all fiscal year.
And then you'll ask for those funds to be in the new budget starting July 1?
Yes, we're working through that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there any way that the judges you are using could be salaried and then the judges you're not using be hourly? So that we're not paying a judge a salary that's not one of the ones that's actively working? I don't know the details, but it just sounds like if there's somebody who's being salaried, who's being paid whether they're working or not, we would want that person to be one of the regularly working judges so that we're not having to pay hourly on top of salary,
I have spoken with Judge Buckner, and she has agreed when she's available to fill in for Judge Hunter. when he's on vacation, when he goes to meetings, and when he goes to training classes. So she is being used as well.
Okay. All right, Counselor Thomas.
Mayor, I just wanted to say to Ms. Willingham and to Judge Hunter how much the committee that has been appointed by council to work with the Recorder's Court appreciate all of the things that you have done. One of the things that was happening at Recorder's Court, and this was just sort of happening, I guess, before we did some reorganizing over there and appointed Judge Hunter as the chief judge, there really wasn't anyone in Ms. Willingham's position. There wasn't anyone who was sort of the admin over the entire operation, doing some of the personnel work, doing some of the other kinds of administrative work. There were people who were doing things, but they weren't getting into the weeds as Donna has been able to do. And it's made all the difference, I think. One of the things that we have seen, and we continue to see, she mentioned briefly the cross-training. Until Donna came in, if you worked in Recorder's Court, you did one thing, and that was all you ever did. And Donna has done some cross-training, so now the folks who are working in that department, in that office, are able to handle whatever comes up, and we think that is a real benefit. One of the other things that has happened is that by moving the tickets that are written by the motor squad and the tickets that are written by the highway patrol officers to a separate court, they can get in and out much quicker, in and out and back on the road, and the folks in the other Recorder's Court cases can also get in and out quicker. They've done some things to work with the Columbus Police Department and the Georgia Highway Patrol to make sure that we're doing what needs to be done, and they've made clear, I think, to both of those entities that they're willing to do whatever they need to do. Councilor Barnes and Councilor Allen and I are that committee that you appointed, and we have been very pleased with, as the mayor said, a lot of things happening in a very short period of time, and we expect to see a lot of those good things to continue as we go on. And so I just wanted to be sure that you all knew what a real difference it has made. And they're not finished yet. And I do want to say to the city manager and to his staff how much we appreciate the work that you've done. Donna worked, as Judge Hunter said, in Bibb County and in Ware County, but as you know, everybody is a little different. And the city manager and his staff have worked with Donna to make sure that she understands the procedures and the process and so forth that we're doing here. And things are getting on an even keel, and we're looking for great things over there. There's still, as I said, a lot of things to do, but we're getting there. And I just wanted to make sure that you as a council know how pleased Councilor Allen and Councilor Barnes and I are with the work that both Judge Hunter as the chief judge and Ms. Willingham as the chief clerk have done in that department. Thank you, Mayor.
And I think we're about ready for a motion, but let me just say that Mayor Pro Tem and I have had a bit of sidebar here. Because we don't know, I mean, obviously you got sessions and all sorts of things you're trying to deal with, and it's multifaceted. But do just consider as we go forward, particularly for budget purposes, that you have a fairly good sized salary. And so just think about how to either move that or maximize it. I have no idea what the particulars of the circumstances are, but if you have a committed salary, obviously, that should be maximized before hourly stuff. So I don't know how to work it, but it's just something we noted. So if you would just think about that for when we go through budget. All right, so it looks like we need a motion. I don't know about funding, but the city manager said he's going to work some things out. Councilor Baker?
No, that was my question, as far as the funding sources. I understand the cubicles, I'm not one to dip into fund balance for payroll purposes, so there'd have to be another option for that. But-
Yeah. Well, I asked the finance director where the money comes from, and she frowned at me, but let us just work on it. And I understand, we want to avoid fund balance as much as we possibly can, and I said that to her already.
Okay.
And so, but let us work on it.
And that's why, too, if we can work some things out with the salary going forward or in a more efficient way or something, we might be able to work it
Would the
out.
motion or the approval be to just let the city to go forward, but bring back a final vote as far as the funding goes?
I'll provide you later with the source, and our effort will be to avoid using fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, and then the Mayor Pro Tem and
I just want to make sure the public understands, these questions are being asked because this is our court. This is our responsibility. So we're not nitpicking a department. We're picking the department. That's totally our responsibility.
All right, so we'll need a motion for $21,000 for cubicles, $21,000 to cover salary adjustments for an interim position and new sessions. What did I say? Okay, let me call it again. I'm so sorry. It's $21,000 for the cubicle and $11,000 for salary to cover an interim position and also new sessions of court.
Through June 30th.
Through June 30th, yes, sir.
Yes.
So is there a motion? Okay, and there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please state aye. Are there any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck. Look forward to hearing great things.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you all. All right, I know we've been asked to bring up two things. We have very similar circumstances, and we've got an elected official here who's come to discuss the budget. Coroner Buddy Bryan is here, and so Coroner Bryan, if you'd like to come forward and talk a bit. This is under the same, if you want to say, Mr. City Manager.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to ask our finance director to take the mic and explain why we have the coroner here and why we have Civic Center Director John Dorman here. And so we're going to hear from the coroner, and then we're going to hear from John Dorman, and then we'll go back to our normal business.
Yes. So as the city manager mentioned previously with Recorder's Court, pursuant to the ordinance that council passed, which was ordinance 13-39, department must come before council to request additional funding if they are projected to go over budget. The coroner's office is here today because he is projected to exceed his budget for FY18. I'm not exactly sure as far as the monies that the coroner will be requesting from council, but what I can say is from the end of March through the end of June for FY17, he spent just about a little over $10,000. In his operating budget for FY16, for that same time frame, it was about $6,500. In FY15, it was about $5,400. So it fluctuates for this time of the year. I'm not exactly sure what else he needs to purchase as far as his budget is concerned, but the coroner can most certainly address that for you. So,
thank you. Hi, good to see everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, Buddy Bryan, Muscogee County Coroner. I don't want to be here any more than you want me to be here. I check my variance every month. Looked like I was doing really good. Got an email from finance, needed to come before you because I was exceeding my budget. I thought that to be a surprise. And then Robin Rice, my new finance person, did some research, and we had some major unexpected expense. One of my deputies, unfortunately, ran into the back end of a vehicle, which pushed that vehicle into the back of my transportation van. We had some major expense in order to get his vehicle repaired, a couple of $1,000. My chief deputy coroner, Freeman Worley's computer was 9 years old. It wasn't much better than a boat anchor. It would lose data, and as you know, our position is vitally important. We communicate with the GBI, the medical examiner's office, and we were losing data. We had to replace it. When we called IT, we could get number 45, be number 45 on the list, or we could wait 2 years for a replacement computer, or I could spend $2,500 to replace his laptop, which I chose to do because of the importance in his position. 2 years ago, I was before City Council. It was approved that my deputies, myself, and my administrative assistant get new computers because they were so antiquated. Well, my office manager, my assistant, finally got her computer in December, 2 years later. I got mine a little bit before that. My other deputy, Charles Newton, still hadn't gotten his. I don't understand why it cost me so much to get a laptop. But needless to say, we've spent about $6,000 over our budget for unexpected expenses. Now, I put together a chart, and I want to bring up that I am a team player. I feel like I've done an exceptional job. I treat this like a business. I go back to 2002 when I was elected. That year, I was $2,000 below budget. The next year, I was $2,000 below budget. The next year, we had to purchase a vehicle for my deputy because he totaled a car. That put me over budget. The next year, we were even. The next year, we were $7,000 below budget, even though we had a massive increase in the number of death calls. Last year, we were $2,000 below. This year, we still have money for salaries, but not for operating expense. There's 5 expenses that for the last 6 years, we've gone over every year. And the reason being is we cannot control the number of deaths. There is a line item down at the bottom. You'll see when I took office, we were averaging 55 deaths investigations per month. At present time, we're doing 71 death investigations per month. At present, we've conducted 643 death investigations this year, and if we stay on track, we will investigate 857 compared to 663 when I took office. That's 200 more cases per year. That's body bags, gloves, transportation costs to the medical examiner's office. There's a lot of expense involved. Yeah, I'm over budget, but I've been under budgeted ever since I've been in office. Asking for a little bit more money, try to get me through the year. My job is mandatory to be out serving the citizens of Columbus. We do an excellent job. I appreciate you letting me come before you. You'll have to get some numbers from her. She said between $6,000 and $10,000. Roll the dice. Question?
All right. We have the Mayor Pro Tem.
Have we looked at where we could possibly get some money for the continuous operation? Because unfortunate, this is an office that we have to find the money to fund it, whether we like it or not. And we know car accidents do happen, but we also know that people die, people kill people, and that we don't have control over, but the coroner's office still has to function in those responsibilities. And it's not like he's asking for frivolous stuff.
Very true and well said. One thing I'm not for sure, sir. Finance says somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000.
Angelica, do you want to see if you can take a crack at answering how much? Because we will need something to consider.
Well, I'm not, as I said before, I can provide the numbers that he's spent over the course of the last 3 years. But, I don't specifically know exactly what else the coroner might need to purchase this fiscal year as far as the things that he needs to conduct his duties as being coroner. I mean, could I say, don't buy any more pens or paper or, I really can't make that call. But the amount from FY17 from this time last year through the end of June, he spent a little bit more than $10,000. FY16, it was a little bit more than $6,000, and FY15, it was a little bit more than $5,000.
Well, Madam Mayor and Council, let me just ask you not to take a vote on this one tonight, and we'll bring you a number at the next business meeting. But I will say to the coroner, when we bring that number from this date through the end of the fiscal year, we are going to have to adhere to purchases that are already funded. And if there's something like body bags, of course, that's something we got to do. But there are some other things that I see that possibly could have waited. That's not budgeted. And so, and what happens if you go out and you use your purchase card prior to it, and of course that's going to come to finance after the fact. Whereas if it was before, they would say that's not budgeted. And if it's not something that's urgent, they would probably stop the purchase. But if it's after you've already used your purchase card, then it's too late. So I don't want to be the judge of what's critical and what's not. And because some of the things I see perhaps were critical. Like you've got a generator, a gas generator. That was, I don't know what you were going to do with a generator, but it was probably important.
Well, power outages during the storm, and we've got 8 remains out in the county morgue. I was prepared to make sure that they didn't decompose any.
And that's my point.
Absolutely. That was a necessary purchase. And
I would say that that is a necessary purchase, but then there's furniture and pens and clip-on cameras and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not questioning what you purchased, but we are going to monitor between now and the end of the year. But we'll get with the coroner and bring a number back for you next week, because we don't have a good number tonight. So we will bring that back, Madam Mayor.
Yep. Buddy, if you'll just get with them and kind of walk them through sort of what you think you'll need, and they can help you, and you'll come up with something specific.
Yeah, I'll be glad to, and I appreciate it. I don't spend money needlessly at all. I can justify every penny that I spend. And I want to bring up a point that the city manager asked me to bring up. Since being elected and taking office January the 1st, 2013, and I provided y'all with a copy of this, my office has conducted 4,065 death investigations. As you all know, we do all the pauper and indigent cases. We started doing that July of 2014. We've conducted 444 pauper and indigent cases through my office. Of those, 298 were non-coroner cases. They came from hospice and hospitals and a lot from other counties, Russell County, Lee County. When they die in Muscogee County, I've got to take care of them if they're pauper and indigent. Only 146 were coroner cases. Now, of the 444, we buried 142. That cost the city $400 per, at a cost of about $56,800. I cremated because I got authorization from the family due to my professionalism, morals, and integrity. I cremated 302. Now, city ordinance states that if a family reimburses the city for the cremation, it's kind of a washout. Approximately 90% of those remains, of those 302, we'll say about 272 of those families reimburse the city, causing a balance neutral of about $170,000. Now, I say I've saved the city $170,000. Finance says it's a balance neutral. Fine with me. But I look at me and say, you've done an excellent job. And I'm going to continue to do an excellent job because I serve the citizens of Columbus, Georgia with pride and dignity. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate your blessing. Pop.
Well, and Madam,
We've got the Mayor Pro Tem, and then we have Councilor Barnes.
I want to say to the city manager, we need to get a memo out to all department heads. Well, the other ones come through you, but even the elected officials, that if they are over budget or closer in over budget, before they go charge something on their cards, they need to get with finance in your office, get authorization to do that.
well, and Madam Mayor Pro
Because
Tem.
otherwise, we're not going to have any control over it.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I absolutely concur, and I do want to commend the finance director. She saw, her budget analyst obviously saw that they were headed in that direction, and they are good at alerting them to say, you're going to have to get on the city manager's agenda and tell council where you're going. And so that's why he's here, and that's why we don't have a number, because they saw this coming. And I absolutely concur.
Okay. Councilor Barnes?
Buddy, I want to say I know you've done an excellent job. Past years you've been under budgeted, appreciate it. And I do also know that in life, guess what? In life, things happen. Things happen. But, and I also want to commend our young finance director too, because she's definitely on the ball. So what's the takeaway here? The takeaway is that that young lady right here who's on the ball will get together with you. And, but I want to say, I do realize the past budgets, you've done a marvelous job. But you see that young lady right there? She's awesome with a capital A. And we'll make sure we stay on top of your budget. And thank you for all the things. We're going over and beyond on some of the things you've done.
I appreciate it, Pop, and I agree with you there. It took me by surprise. I got a little argumentative with her. She says, I know what I'm doing. City manager says, rest assured, she knows what she's doing.
She's awesome.
Oh, and they emailed me, and I said, dang, they know what they're doing. But it was like a month later, you know. I'm sitting here.
Buddy, it's life.
It is.
This is life.
Shaking and baking.
And that's what it's all about, buddy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, catching this stuff. So thank you. We appreciate you. And then we had John Dorman, real quick, with a similar kind of issue that just had to be brought to council's attention.
That is true, and
Yes.
so I have gotten with the Civic Center Director, and it's a very similar situation as far as, that's very close to the coroner's office here. John actually isn't over budget, but we kind of foresee it based on some events that he has coming up. You know, I think you only have one anchor tenant there, and so because he had some more free days on his calendar, he was able to book more shows. And so John is asking for a budget adjustment of about $1.5 million, but that will be offset by ticket sales.
Don't get alarmed.
Okay, now wait, I was going to say that one more time a little bit slower. What now?
Let me just say, Madam Mayor, this is not his first, he came last year. If your expenses are up and your revenue is up equally, it's a wash.
Right.
Okay.
And so he's done more events, and so his expenses are up, but his revenue is up. And so it's different than the budget you approved, and so he's here to say,
What's the net?
yeah. Well, let's let John talk.
Yeah, what's the net?
The net's to be decided, actually. We've got, since October, we had more shows come up due to the fact that we didn't have the hockey team this year, ma'am. Mayor and city council and Mr. City Manager. So we were able to pick up a few more events, and I'm looking at just short of expecting about $1.5 million payout to the promoters. The net to us will most likely, well, it's all going to balance out at the end of the day. So we'll make $1.5 million.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand, because when I say net, I mean delta. What's the difference, right? And so, like, if you said, I have 1.5 million in expenses and I'm getting 1.3 million in revenue, that's a $200,000 negative delta, right? It's a negative net. So, but if it's the other way around, then you got a positive net. And so that's what I'm looking for.
Well,
you just don't know because the events haven't occurred yet?
Correct.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I can give you an example. The concert in December, Escape. It was an R&B concert. We grossed $530,000 in ticket sales. We paid AEG, the promoter, $415,000, and we netted $82,000 at the end of the day. So we made $82,000 profit for having that event in the building.
So presumably your net's going to be positive?
Yes, ma'am.
Presumably.
And so
Okay.
again, the finance director anticipated, okay, let's say you approved a $5 million budget, and he has $6.5 million in expenses, and she can see that another $1.5 million is going to come in revenue. It's all going to balance, but it's not what you approved.
Sure.
And so he's here to say, here, exactly, but he can't, there again, go above what you approved unless he comes here and you say it's okay.
Gotcha.
And so finance director caught that and the trend and says you need to come to council. So
Okay.
it's all about
Right.
1339 and being transparent and upfront.
Sure. Okay, we've got Counselor Baker.
Would any of the costs come, and like in this fiscal year, and the revenues close out in the next fiscal year?
No, so this is just for this fiscal year.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because when the event, the example that he just gave, when the event happens, we get our money first.
Right, but he could have promotional costs before that.
Correct, but these are for events that are scheduled to occur this fiscal year.
Close out before June 30th.
Yes, sir, I have another.
Okay, right, got you.
I have another
Thank you.
5 events that are, will probably gross.
Right.
That $1.5 million.
All right, we've got Counselor Huff.
I was on the same page as the city manager, that we really don't have much exposure. All the exposure is to the promoters.
To the promoter, exactly. The building always gets paid, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
We hold the money.
Yeah, and we want that to be clear because we sell the tickets, collect the money, we get our money off the top. And so we don't have to worry about you running off.
Okay. So there's nothing for us to approve. This is just an alert at this point.
Well, you're going to have to approve allowing him to exceed
Allow me to go.
his budget.
I see.
Right.
Okay. And are we going to do it by a particular amount or just?
1.5 million.
Okay, 1.5 million in expenses and a proportionate amount in revenue? I mean.
And yes, equal amount. Increase the expenses by 1.5 and revenue by 1.5.
Okay, all right, I'm good with that. I mean, I think I can call that motion. Okay, we've got a motion, we've got a second. Is there any further questions or discussion about this? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Are there any opposed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sure, thank you all. And to citizens, thank you so much. I hope you can see that this is just us making sure there's no surprises come the end of the fiscal year, right? Okay, thank you all. We're going to return now back to our previously set agenda where we have the minutes from January 10th, January 24th, February 14th, February 28th. Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second that the minutes be received? Okay, and no changes, edits? Hearing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Okay, and we will head in then to the city attorney's agenda, and we have Mr. Fay.
All right, thank you, Mayor. First item up is a zoning vote we need for 1205 Front Avenue. The Powerhouse McKenna petition is ready for a vote.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, you may cue the item to vote, and you may record your vote electronically. And I think that's got it. Yep, it passes.
Next item is zoning at 1052 Center Street. This is the Johnston petition. It's ready for action.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Okay. Mr. Johnston, thank you for being here. That's passed. Item 3 is an ordinance amending Chapter 9. Mayor, it's the recording of transfers and fees in city cemeteries. It's ready for action.
We've got a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on this item? Seeing that there's none, you may record your votes electronically. Let's see here. I think I'm missing somebody. Yeah, Councilor Baker. There you go. That's all right? It passes.
That's passed. Next item for a vote is 13-240 in the city code, the sewer inspection with the waterworks and our code enforcement. It's ready for adoption.
Move approval.
Is there a second? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Oops, are there any opposed? Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. You all are way ahead. Okay, we've got, is that all 7? Yes. All right, thank you all.
Okay, the next item, Mayor, is the first reading ordinance we delayed on the Animal Control Advisory Board, revising the number on the board's composition and for other purposes. It's ready for any discussion. I thought I saw, yeah, there. Ms. Short is here. Are there any questions around the council table?
Does anybody have any questions related to this? All right, we've got Councilor Woodson. Hold on just a second, Councilor Woodson. Let me get you. There you go.
Thank you. Joy, can you explain the purpose of why of the amendment? Why are we changing?
Animal Control Advisory Board change. The change is due to the fact that this portion of the ordinance has not been changed since implementation or the acceptance of animal control from the state. So a lot of the language in there, City Manager, you can correct me, talks about it from the perspective of just starting up an Animal Control Advisory Board. And in part of that, 2 of the members of the board were in fact counselors. And we have since learned that with the administrative laws and the charter, there shouldn't be any counselors on the board. So what they were doing in the past, because counselors did not show up for meetings consistently like they needed them to, they would just appoint 2 citizens to sit and represent the counselor. So what they're doing is they are rectifying that part of the ordinance to make sure that our Animal Control Advisory Board is legal and operating as it should be. You're welcome.
Okay. And we have Councilor Garrett.
I just wanted to see if there had been any input from the various agencies like PAWS and Animal Ark and then the current board, if they'd had any input on this.
Board, it did go before the current board.
Okay.
They did speak about it. They approved us to send it back to the city attorney's office. That is another change that we're making on the board, on the ordinance itself as it pertains to the board. Currently, the ordinance is written for 1 Humane Society member and 1 PAWS member. Well, we all know that the Humane Society and PAWS merged. So what we wanted to do was leave that 1 seat remaining and then open another seat for another licensed rescue in Muscogee County. And that's what we've asked the city attorney to do. So you'll have representations from each licensed rescue in Muscogee County.
Thank you.
Okay? And citizens separate, yes, ma'am.
All right, anything else? Oh, we've got Counselor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. What, do we know what other communities do, what the makeup of their boards are? Do they have designated spots? And
I
how they?
apologize, Counselor, I have no idea, to be perfectly honest with you. I know that there are a lot of different partnerships between municipalities and some private nonprofits. I don't know necessarily that there are animal control advisory boards, but I'm sure that they took that lead from other communities when they first created this board. I do know that there are, like I said, a lot of partnerships between private nonprofits and municipalities. A lot of animal control agencies are merged into public safety, so you don't necessarily have that need for a board, if you will. But I'm just not familiar with a community that has an animal control advisory board that works as closely with, like ours does.
Help me understand the makeup of the board. So we have 2 veterinarians.
Correct.
1 member from Paul's Humane.
Correct.
Are there any citizens that are?
There are 2 nominated positions by the council. 2 citizens are represented as well. Then you have the Public Works Director is a permanent member of the board. You have, and a voting member of the board. You have the division manager.
The Public Works Director?
The Public Works Director, correct.
Does she send a designee when she's not available?
Not often.
Is she allowed to do that?
It's not in the ordinance that she is allowed to do that. But the division,
Does
the Public Works Director have a representative that sits in her stead if she's unable to make it to those meetings?
I'm just trying to get a better flavor for how it's operating.
Correct.
What other changes we could think about as we go forward. It seems like, to me at least, it seems like we would be better served if we had more citizens that were not in the vocation of animal care involved.
I'm fine
just
with
an
that.
idea, just an idea.
Yeah, sometimes you need that outside influence, to get different ideas. And I think that was the intention in the beginning when we had, even though the positions were identified as city councilors, in my mind, I saw them as representatives of the councilor because they would say who they wanted to sit in their seat. Does that make sense?
When you say counselor, are you talking about a counselor up here?
Right, so you have 2 that are appointed by council, correct?
Oh, okay. I thought you meant 2 city councilors on the board.
Right, it used to be, and that's what we're changing.
That's what we're changing
Right,
now.
but because they never showed for the meetings, the directorship at that point in time just asked for 2 more citizens to serve on the board.
I got you. All right.
The citizens are replacing us.
Right. So in essence, you had 4 citizens, 2 vets, the Director of Public Works, the Division Manager as a non-voting member, and then the 2 rescue representatives.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, Drill, did you say the Public Works Director was unable to make it because of her schedule?
No.
Does she come?
She comes,
She
yes,
comes.
but if
That's what I
she's
thought. Yeah, she
unable to
makes it.
come, he wanted to know if there was a designee.
Right. That's what I thought, that she was very regular.
No, she's very
attending.
active in it.
Okay. We've got Counselor Thomas.
Are there other boards that are advisory boards where the department head is a voting member of the board? I mean, we have a lot of other boards in the city, and this is the first one that I've been made aware of conscientiously, that the department head is a voting member of the board. They attend, they may participate in the discussion, but they are not voting members, and they are not, certainly are not chair of the board. Are there others?
I can't think of any.
Well,
can you?
only one that would not be like an animal advisory board would be pension board.
Well, I'm thinking, Mr. City Manager, like the Parks and Rec Board. We have an
No,
advisory
no.
board there. The Parks and Rec Director is not a voting member of
That's
that board.
correct.
We have the boards that Mr. Jones is advisor to. He is advisor to that board. And I can see the Director of Public Works being an advisor to this board. But it bothers me that we are having that person be a voting member of the board.
Well,
and may serve as chair of that board. We're supposed, I was, looking at citizens on this committee.
we'll take a look, but I can't think of another board, as you pointed out, with a similar situation other than pension board.
And most of them are ex officio, non-voting members, and that would be what I would request this resolution, this
Why don't we treat that
ordinance.
as an amendment? And
Yeah.
Councilor Barnes has stated he would second that. And so I think that the motion is to amend this proposed ordinance to provide that the Director of Public Works is an ex officio member.
Not ex officio,
or-
non-voting.
Ex officio, non-voting. And was there anything else to the motion?
I'm wondering, with that, do we need to add an additional citizen then to the board?
And add one more citizen
Yeah.
spot. Okay. That's a motion and second for the amendment. Who wants to speak to the amendment? Anybody? Councilor Barnes. Could you turn on your light, Councilor Barnes? There you go.
Am I good?
Yes, you're good.
The only problem that I have, the majority of our boards are more egalitarian. With this right here, you have too many like-minded individuals. I think that we need to, if it's going to be a board, like the majority, and I'm in complete agreement with you, Judy, that we need to add another civilian to try to balance things out somewhat. Because that's the way the majority of our boards are. We don't stack them, and I'm not saying you're doing it deliberately,
Right.
with all individuals of like mind.
Right.
You don't get a good representation of really what the citizens' desires are.
Right.
And really, that's my only concern with this here. So adding a, yes.
Four right now, currently, yes.
There's 4 of the professionals.
2 vets and then 2 rescue representatives.
So what's the count now? Help me.
So that's 4 and 4.
And then
Is
the
that
Public
4?
Works Director and the
With what
division
Judy and I
manager.
just got finished saying.
That's 4, there's 4 citizens, 4 professionals, and 1 advisor. So that would break the,
That's what I want. And I think that's what,
no, right.
and I think that's what Judy was saying as well.
Because I'm computing with
Okay, so we've got, let's see, we're going to move the public director to an ex officio non-voting. We're going to open up one more spot for a citizen, and we're going to make sure that the Public Works Director does not chair the committee. Those are the 3 things that I hear in this motion. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
All right, so any discussion on that motion to amend? All right.
Let me say,
Okay, yes.
make sure my notes are right. So we're going to have 9 voting members and 2 non-voting, total of 11. Is that correct?
I wasn't counting, Clifton, I just know that they're talking about changing the Public Works Director to be non-voting ex officio and replacing that position with a voting citizen. And then also changing the Public Works Director to not chair. So to
That's
assume the
a-
chair would be a citizen.
Right.
3 citizens added, okay. So
No,
what,
that makes
so
five.
what's
So
our
that will make
total?
5
That
citizens.
makes 5 citizens
Well-
and 4 professionals,
That's it.
Right,
and
That's it.
1 advisor.
That's
Right.
it. That's it.
So it should be the same number.
Yes.
right.
At this point, we have not added any.
Any-
You haven't added any new people, you've just transferred out.
Right.
Okay,
That makes it more equal.
okay, non-voting.
Okay. All right, there being no discussion on the amendment, we'll take a vote on that. All those in favor? Please, all right, hold on a second. Hold on, we've got Counselor Allen.
I apologize.
That's all right.
I just want to make sure I'm.
Hold on a second here, we're having microphone trouble. There we go.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm on the same list with you. Going back over the members again. Okay, I have 2 vets, 2 veterinarians, I apologize. 1 environmental health.
officer, correct.
Okay. One from Paws,
One member from Paws,
and one animal rescue.
just another license. The animal rescue in Muscogee County, which right now that would be Animal Arc.
Okay, that's five.
That's 5 right there.
That's 5 members that are
Professionals.
professionals, okay,
We'll just put it that
professionals.
way.
And then 2 citizens.
2 citizens that are appointed by the board, by the council, excuse me.
This
And then-
motion passes, will be 3 citizens.
3 citizens. It'll be 5, if my
Because they're
counting is correct.
replacing us.
Right, but are we
So you
taking,
should say,
Wait a minute,
then
wait a
that
minute.
there's 4 citizens.
Wait a minute, let me get through with the
okay,
members. All right, 2 citizens. The next, it states the Chief of Animal Control Enforcement.
correct.
Is that Ms. Bigler?
No, she's the Director of Public Works.
Who is that?
The
All right.
division manager is the Chief of Animal Control.
I didn't get that, say again. Who is
The division manager, who used to be myself, I used to sit on the board as an ex officio member.
Okay.
And what I would do is bring forward any information that they needed. And then the administrative assistant acted as the secretary for the board and took the minutes and things of that nature.
Okay, so we have the Chief of Animal Control
Mhm.
Enforcement, and then the 8th position is the Administrative Officer of Animal Control.
Right, correct.
So it seems like there are only 2 citizens out of 9, is that 9? So that's,
2 appointed citizens,
okay.
correct. You're not including the 2 that were sitting for a
So there were
council
2
member.
city councilors, but the citizens
Yeah,
filled
they're
those
gonna be
positions.
Well,
the places.
that's not listed in this ordinance.
Right, not in the amendment, that's in the original ordinance.
So this, okay.
So it would be,
So of the 9, I'm still counting 7 professionals.
Give up
No.
to-
There were 4, because by the rule of due, they took the 2 city councilors and made them citizens.
Correct.
So there were always 4 citizens. Up to this point, there's been 4
4
citizens.
citizens on the board,
But
correct.
they were just not doing what the ordinance said because councilors weren't coming, obviously, because they could not come.
We were the 2
Okay,
citizens.
okay, but I'm looking at the ordinance as proposed, I think. Clifton, am I looking at the right
He's
document?
looking at the amendment.
I'm looking at the amendment.
Right.
Okay, of the members identified in the amendment, 7 are professional and 2 are citizens, the way I'm reading it.
Now, when I read the amendment, I thought it only had 8. And Clifton, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So the 8 were the 2 rescues, the 2 citizens, the 2 vets, the the Public Works Director, and the division manager. And the rabies control, thank you, rabies control. Division manager being ex officio. Did that make sense?
Now, are you identifying the way it was?
No, I'm identifying what I read in the amendment.
Okay.
Do it again. What's in the
All right, in the amendment, the way I read it, it says,
3 citizens. This one was ex officio.
the chairman is the Public Works Director. The board shall elect a chairman from its members, and the Director of Public Works shall be a permanent member.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a word you said without my glasses.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Number 1 talks about the Public Works Director being a permanent member.
Correct,
Okay. After that, it talks about 2 veterinarians.
correct.
Then the environmental
Rabies control officer.
rabies control officer,
Mhm.
okay.
That's the environmental health representative.
Okay, that's 3. Then you have the PAWS member, animal rescue member, 2 citizens, the chief of animal control, and the administrative assistant of animal control.
Correct.
Okay,
Now, the
that
last
is,
2 are ex officio. They do not have voting powers.
This doesn't say the administrative officer is ex officio.
it's saying they serve a 2-year member in 2-year terms.
Yeah, the administrative officer is simply there to take the minutes. That's all she does.
no voting.
No. All she
Okay.
does is take the minutes to submit to the clerk of council so that they are turned in on time.
All right, Chief Animal Control and Enforcement Officer shall be a non-voting member. Animal Control Administrative Officer shall be Recording Secretary, so that
Recording
would be a
secretary.
non-voting member.
That's right.
Okay.
you
So
have
of the 7,
Mhm.
we have 2 citizens,
Correct,
5 professionals.
correct.
So the amendment, we need to change the amendment. So the amendment adds 1 or 2?
One citizen.
One citizen.
One
Takes
citizen.
away one professional and adds one citizen.
Okay, so,
Because it changes, right now, the current voting member is the Director of Public Works, and it makes her non-voting, so that takes away one professional vote, and it adds a citizen, and that adds a citizen
Yeah, it
vote.
takes away one vote.
Mhm. If somebody would write it,
The Director of Public Works, we have 5, what Council Adams is calling professionals. We have a vet, a pause, an animal arc, and the health person.
Rabies control officer.
Okay, those are the 5.
That's fine.
And then we had the Director of Public Works, we moved to be an ex officio.
That's good.
The Chief of Animal Control is an ex officio. And to replace the Director as voting member, we've added a citizen. So you have vet, pause, animal art, health division, citizen, Director of Public Works, Chief of Animal Control and Enforcement. And then the secretary of the board is the administrative officer. That person is not an ex officio member, cannot vote, does not participate in the discussion.
That's correct. She's a recording secretary.
That's what
nothing
my
more.
motion was, Mayor.
yeah, that's what, okay. Okay, I think
So
the
the-
motion's still good, and Pops had
the
seconded
motion-
it. Pops, do you want to speak to your motion?
No, I just wanted to make it more fair.
Mayor,
More-
I think,
More balanced. It was not balanced before.
I think Councilor Barnes and I are on the same page,
We are.
but I would like to, again, identify the numbers. So your amendment adds 1 or 2. Now, we add 1 and we're changing the public.
8 voting members of the board
Okay,
and 2 ex officio members.
okay, I think I'm caught up with you, but
There's only
I'm
3
still hung
citizens.
up on the professional and the citizens. We still have 5 professional and 3 citizens,
Right.
How many of the 5 can vote?
all of them.
All 5.
Okay, and so you're not including the Public Works Director in the 5?
Right.
No,
So we should have another citizen.
right.
Do we need 2 veterinarians?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I say that because often you'll find that because of their own personal private practices, one can be there and one may not. And it is very, very critical to have one of them there because there are medical issues that come up about animals that we don't know that they can only speak to. So yes, it is important to have
Well,
both veterinarians.
Why don't
Okay,
we
what-
do this? We've got a fairly complex motion. Why don't we vote on the motion? If you want to add another, amend it to add yet another citizen, we can do that. Either we have to pull the motion and restate it, or I'm just afraid it's getting too gummy.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The Environmental Health Division person works for the Public Health Department?
Correct, Department of Health.
Could they be advisory?
That is a question that you all are more than welcome to answer. I
Okay, I would like to amend the motion to add, to make the Environmental Health Division an advisory position, and in place of that, have a citizen on the board.
Okay. So let's go with okay, and there's a second. So this latest amendment is to make the environmental advisory position ex officio non-voting,
Right.
and to add one citizen in that place.
That's exactly correct.
That's the present amendment. Is there any discussion on that one? All right. Counselor Huff. Are you going to speak to that? Okay. Could you turn to Counselor Huff's microphone?
Okay. Are we at an even number now, or did we get to the odd number?
No, we got about 2 more motions before we know where.
We're still at 8.
We're still at 8, okay. We're trying to get to 9, so we'll, okay.
Okay. All right, so we've got a motion right now to make the environmental service person with the health department advisory and to add a citizen
You
in
got
that
that
place.
second from me.
Okay, and so all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we've got a motion to make the Director of Public Works ex officio, non-voting, and to dethrone that person as the chair,
Dethrone.
and to add a citizen.
You got a second?
And there's already a second.
Okay, so we'll do.
So if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, so that should net
So how many
us
citizens we
2
got now?
less professional votes and 2 more. So that should be a change of 4
Here we
votes.
go.
So where are we? Yeah.
Yeah, can we?
Okay, Counselor Thomas, please, yeah.
Vet, pause, animal arc, citizen, 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 citizen. Ex officio, Director of Public Works, Chief of Health,
Environmental Health
Chief
Division.
of Animal Control and Enforcement, and the Environmental Health Division, Columbus Department of Public Health.
Okay.
So we have 3 ex officios and 8 voting members. Now,
Can I keep that? Thank you.
All right, that's where we are. Now we have Counselor Huff.
Okay, that's the point at where I wanted to get in. I was going back and forth with Councilor Woodson to have an odd number, so we won't have 8. It could be a tie. So if we could add one more person to that, to make it a 9-member voting. Yeah, one more citizen, so we'd have 9 people voting.
Okay, we've got a request for an amendment to have one more citizen. Okay, we've got a second. Any discussion on that item? All right, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that's all of your amendments, Clifton. And if you get those to us,
Okay.
you might want to do it
Did we get a
and send it around to counselors so we don't have any snafus. All right. So Counselor Woodson.
Drake, don't go anywhere.
Drake.
I just wanted to say thank you. I know this was a little bit challenging here, but this is how we show, teamwork, and it shows how we can find a happy medium. I also want to publicly thank you, Pauls. Let me know if I forget anybody.
Okay.
Animal Arcs,
Should never give out names. Animal SOS,
Animal SOS,
Change Free,
Change Crew. Keep going, 'cause you know better than I do.
Animal Control,
Animal Control.
and my staff, yeah.
And the two citizens that were there. We met yesterday to discuss about the chain ordinance and other ordinances to kind of look at, to amend, to make it easier for both the citizens, for our employees, and the benefit of these animals that are being mistreated in our community. And Mayor, I can tell you and colleagues, it was really good. These ladies, I thought an hour, and I'm trying to shut it down, and they kept going for about 2 hours. And we did very good. We came to a happy compromise on 4 tasks that we're going to work on. So in the future, you'll see us come back with some amendment to some of the ordinances to make it fair. And like we were saying today, the city with the community, working together as one and sharing information, helping one another to take care of the animals that are being neglected in our city. So you'll be seeing us more come back from the organizations, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being there.
All right. Thank you, Drell. And Mr. City Attorney, you have a resolution, I believe?
We do, Mayor. This is the authorization of a special exception for used auto sales less than 2 acres at 1230 and 1238 Fort Benning Road. Recommended for approval. Is Mr. Porter here, the applicant?
Yes, they're here.
All right, well, let's see if anybody in the audience wants to be heard. Anybody? Anybody in the audience for or against, raise your hand. Other than the applicant, we know they're for it. Okay.
Okay, we've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those, excuse me, you can vote electronically on this. And it does pass. Thank you.
Okay. And that's all we had listed, Mayor. We may need a short executive session, just depending on how the time goes.
Sure.
The risk manager is here, but we'll see how the time goes.
Okay. I hear it should be very short, so. All right. We're moving in now to the public agenda, and we have first Ms. Susan Gallagher, who's here. Oh, excuse me. We've got Counselor Thomas.
Mayor, I've noticed that we have two young scouts in the
Yes, I'm so
audience
sorry.
tonight.
I've got them thank you for reminding, Troop 205. If you all would stand up, they're here working on their citizenship in the community merit badge. Let's give them a round of applause. I'm sorry, guys, they got me so disoriented with all the amended motions that I forgot to recognize you, but we're so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. All right, thank you, Counselor Thomas, for that reminder. And so now we're back on public agenda, and we'd like to call forward Ms. Susan Gallagher, who's with New Horizons Behavioral Health. She's not here? Okay. We may want to contact her because it looks like she's wanting to recognize a particular month, Alcohol Awareness Month, and we may be able to get her next week at the proclamation session. So next we have Ms. Brandy Clyett, who's here representing the Tree of Life Healthcare Community Health Fair. Thank you for your patience. We so appreciate you and all the good things you do for our community.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandy Clyett. To the mayor, mayor pro tem, city council members, thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to come and present to you today. Dr. F.J. Pinkerton stated that the wealth of a nation depends on the health of its people, and the health of the people determines the wealth of a nation. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Tree of Life, Liberty Utilities, and the Mount Calvary Baptist Association invites our community to attend our second annual health fair. I want to thank all of our vendors and volunteers for giving of their time and gifts to serve our community. National Public Health Week will be April 2nd through the 9th of this year, and it is a growing movement to create the healthiest nation in one generation, and we are celebrating the power of prevention. We have scheduled our health fair for April the 7th, 2018 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's on a Saturday, and this will be held at the Civic Center. We will have screenings for free sickle cell, prostate cancer, breast exam, diabetes, high blood pressure, dental, vision, HIV, and hepatitis C. We will also have doctors on site to answer any health concerns. Screenings do save lives. My father, Pastor Clyett, which is the founder of Tree of Life Healthcare, is alive today because of screenings. That is why this health fair is important to him and to us as an organization. He had his first colonoscopy at the age of 50, and it was clear. The second colonoscopy was done at the age of 60, and he was diagnosed at that time with stage 4 cancer, and he had no symptoms. My father has had his annual physicals, but it was through screenings that he was able to be cancer-free today. That is why this event is so important. He knows that screening saves lives. But one of the most important issues is the continuation of care. Because there are individuals and families in our community who do not have health insurance or are underserved, we are also asking our community to help us provide medical care for those who need our help and deserve our care. And we're asking the community that if they would, they can become a monthly partner with us by giving $20 a month. That can be done through our website, through PayPal, www.treeoflifehealthcare.org, and we also have a Facebook page, Facebook at Tree of Life Healthcare. And we will also have translators there for our non-speaking citizens, and she will be presenting a short message in Spanish for them.
Para todos aquellos que no hablen inglés, queremos invitarlo a nuestra feria. Va a ser el 7 de abril en el Columbus Civic Center. Estaremos ofreciendo exámenes para diabetes, la presión alta, la próstata, mamogramas, visión, HIV y hepatitis C. Vengan y tendremos suficientes voluntarios para ayudarlos. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
If you have any questions, we can take those.
All right, it looks like we have Counselor Barnes.
Your father's always turning a tragedy into something good. You know, I do realize how and why he started Tree of Life. And it's been a blessing, really, for a lot of the individuals in the community, because there are still a lot of people in this community who either don't have any health care or they are underinsured. A lot of the parents, the children are covered under Peach Care, but even if they're working, they just cannot afford it. In fact, a lot of people who are working can't afford it. So what your father is doing is extremely, extremely important. Haven't seen him for a while, but I was aware of what occurred. And I will say to everyone, you know, they give guidelines. As far as the colonoscopy is concerned, they say every 10. I go every 3 because I have a genetic predisposition, so I know to go every 3. And there are a lot of people that fall within that area, in that gray area, where the physician may say every 10 years, because that's the guidelines. But as in the case with your father, he had already had stage 4, and I heard about it, and I put him in prayer, but he's tough, and he rebounded on that. So thanks for something like this here. Prostate screening for men. They need to have it. We men just don't do something like that until we start having problems, but we need to do the checks. Very easy to do and whatever, and so I'm so really glad.
And let me say this, since you did mention the prostate exam, we are able to do the PSA levels through the blood draw down there at the event for the health fair, so you don't have to worry about the more in-depth exam at that time. So you can come out.
A lot of the guys are going, but let them know that it does, and that's good. It's good for them to come and get something. But to really be sure, you have to have the PSA and the DRE, the rectal exam. And I encourage a lot of men that they need to get out of that thing and start thinking about longevity in life. And thank you again. And tell your dad to give me a ring, would you please?
I will. And
Thank
we
you.
invite all of our city council members to attend the event as well.
And can we have that, Mr. City Manager, put on the CCG TV channel so it'll be shown? So
Thank
more of
you.
the citizens will be. And can we have it bilingual? Can we have it in English and
Yes, sir.
Spanish? Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Great.
Thank you.
And we have Counselor Huff.
Thank you both for being here. I appreciate all that you all do. On your donations, contributions, are all checks to be made payable to the Tree of Life Healthcare?
Yes, Tree of Life Healthcare.
Okay. And you mentioned people donating on a monthly basis. Is that something that they mail a check in or they can go online?
If you go to our website, www.treeoflifehealthcare.org, there is a link through PayPal. I have mine set up to where it will come out automatically once a month.
Okay. That's why I want the public to know so they can help you out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for all you do. So
you.
glad to have you here, and thank you for getting this information out.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, we have next Miss Deborah Lees. Is Miss Lees here? Okay, all right. And so that will conclude our public agenda. So we will go into the city manager's agenda at this time. Mr. Hughley.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. First on my agenda, I've got a quitclaim property to Johnson Mills Loft, asking your approval to quitclaim approximately .28 acres of city-owned property located adjacent to Johnson Mills Loft, apartment to Johnson Mills Loft. And the city was contacted in February this year by legal counsel for Johnson Mills regarding property located, as I've indicated. This property was mistakenly deeded to the city as a deed of gift by the original developer, and we've verified that, and that is the case. And they are requesting that the city quitclaim the property back to the current owner, and we're asking your approval to do that.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? All right, seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. Let's see here. That's good. Okay, it does pass.
Next, I'm asking your approval to adopt a resolution in support which recommends to the Georgia Department of Transportation to pursue the design and construction of roundabouts at intersections of Spur 22 at Macon Road and Spur 22 at Lynch Road, Technology Parkway. This was part, as we shared with you, the roads and infrastructure update a couple of weeks ago. We shared with you drawings and renderings of those roundabouts. And so we are asking your approval to move forward with this today.
Okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second? All right, we have Counselor Allen with discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. This is, has caused a little concern in the neighborhoods, and I'd like to ask Donna, the Director of Engineering, to come forward and talk about the public hearings that will be held coming up. I think that DOT has already installed one of these at Jenkins Road, is that right?
What they've installed at Jenkins Road is called an R-cut, and that is what they're proposing at several other locations along the corridor. These two are roundabouts that they're proposing at what's commonly known as Macon Road, comes back into Beaver Run, and at Technology, Lynch Road, and Beaver Run, where it's currently a signal now. But even with the signal, there has been a large number of accidents, and so they feel it'd be much safer with a roundabout.
Okay, well, I appreciate you clarifying the two, but there needs to be a distinction between the R-cuts and the roundabouts, and that was my concern.
Right. And they're looking at the whole corridor, and we are going to have a public meeting on April the 9th to talk about additional R-cuts that they are proposing along that corridor.
Okay, and it's April 9th.
April 9th
6
from 6
o'clock.
to 7 at
Okay.
Solomon Road Rec Center.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
And Counselor, I've asked them to put the roundabouts back up on the screen that we shared with you last week, just so the public will have a chance to see those, and you can see them on the screen now.
You keep saying multiple, and this looks like this one.
Well, there's two.
I'm not looking at it right.
Well, there's the second one. So one's at,
on one side and one's on the other.
yeah.
No, one's at Lynch and one's at the intersection of 80 and
This
Macon.
is Macon Road coming in, right?
Yeah, I had to
Yes,
look at
ma'am.
it twice just
That's
as
it.
well.
Give her a landmark. There's a gas station.
Right.
And then Lynch.
Lynch and Technology was the previous one.
Okay, got it. Got it, thank you.
Okay. Is that all, Counselor Allen?
Well, I guess at the public hearing, they'll talk about speed control of the traffic coming in as they approach the roundabouts. I mean, will there be some type of control mechanism? Will we change the speed limit, or what other things will be there? Because the traffic does move pretty quick.
Commonly, when you
into
put
town.
in roundabouts, you do reduce the speed as you approach it.
Well, I understand that, but if there are vehicles that are not used to this corridor and they're traveling at a high rate of speed, then if there's no notice that there's a roundabout ahead, then that could cause a problem.
There are advanced warning signs for.
Well, that's what I was asking.
Right.
There will
There's a
be.
large signage project as part of a roundabout installation, especially on a road of this size with this volume of traffic.
Okay, so how wide will the roundabout be?
I'm really not sure at this point. These are just concept drawings, so we don't really have those kind of details.
Well,
yet.
I guess my question revolves around, you have a 4-lane highway.
Correct.
So, but will there be a 2-lane roundabout?
It's shown as 4-lane, basically, 2 in each direction.
Right,
And then some additional slip lanes.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. We've got Counselor Huff.
I have a comment once we finish discussion.
Oh, okay. Let's see, we've got Counselor Thomas.
Ms. Newman, do you have any idea of a timeline when they're going to start, when they're going to finish up?
I really don't. They haven't given us any projections yet. I would say at a minimum 3 to 5 years to get it designed and then any right-of-way. The good thing about this particular location is a large part of the right-of-way is owned by the state currently at the Macon roadway.
And so you're saying 3 to 5 years for completion?
That would probably be beginning of construction. It'd probably take 2 years to build something of this size with that volume of traffic.
Yeah, because there's a good bit of traffic on that.
Yes, ma'am. And it may take longer than 2 years, but.
Yeah, but by the time they're done constructing it, people will know they need to slow down because it would have been 2, 3 years worth of work.
They would have been slowed down for 3 years, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got
Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Counselor Huff.
Are we done with this? Okay. I stepped out for a minute to make a donation. I just wanted to be in the affirmative on the no vote? I didn't miss
What's that?
anything? Now this, I mean on number 1, nothing?
On the quick claim?
Yeah, I want to be put in the affirmative on that.
Okay.
Placed in
All
the
right,
affirmative.
so we're back to the roundabouts, and we have a motion, Madam Clerk. Okay, a motion and a second, and we've concluded discussion, so you may record your votes electronically. There we go, and it does pass.
Next, I've got something that we had some discussion on back a few months ago, and so it did not move forward, so we are back again with Levee Road closure and abandonment. And so we're requesting you authorize the changing of our official street map and tax maps of the CCG by officially closing and abandoning a segment of Levee Road beginning at the end of the official right-of-way of Levee Road and extending eastward to its intersection with the west with the west right-of-way line for Benning Drive. Authorize the coordination of design and construction of a permanent turnaround with the property owner, developer of the parcel, reserving utility easements. And the owner of Gus's, you know that they were here and they were talking to one of our former city council members, Skip Henderson, about this. And Council Woodson, you've been absolutely. And so we've continued discussion with them, and during discussions with the owner, developer, and staff, it was agreed that if the road was officially closed, then a full access could be granted. A public meeting was held on January 16, 2018. 9 people were in attendance. A notice of the meeting was hand-delivered to businesses along the street. We had variable message boards out there for advertising the meetings. A notice was in the Ledger Enquirer, and 4 of the attendees were uncommitted on their support for the project, and 1 was against. The road is currently used for cut-through traffic with other routes available. And so we've done a title search, and we've done all the things that we needed to do, and staff believes it's in the best interest of the city and the property owner to work together to officially close the road with the remaining open until such time a permanent turnaround can be designed and constructed, and the city would be responsible for the engineering and construction. And so that property owner is here. They've communicated with Councilor Woodson and with the former city councilor, Skip Henderson, and we're all in agreement. And
all right, we've got a motion and a second. We have Counselor Thomas with discussion.
I went out to Gus's a couple of weeks ago and just sat in their parking lot after I did eat, yes, after I had a lunch, just to watch the traffic. And while it was not bumper to bumper, it was fairly steady. Traffic coming off Victory Drive onto Levee Road and the road that goes down beside Gus's.
Benning.
I also noticed several people, of course, cutting through Gus's parking lot to get from one to the other. And I guess one of my questions is, why are we doing this?
Well, a couple of reasons. One is we don't actually own that part of the right-of-way.
Who does?
That,
Gus.
Gus's owner owns that part of the right-of-way. We did have Jacob Beal do a title search, and that's one thing that he discovered, because in our discussions with them over the last several months, we saw several different plats, and there was some question as to who actually owned the right-of-way, and the city does not own that right-of-way.
When you say the right-of-way, Ms. Newman, are you talking about the street itself?
The street is on private property.
Our city street is on
Yes, ma'am.
private property?
Yes,
Okay, got that.
Okay, so that's one of our primary reasons. And of course, he could take us to court at any point in time and ask us to close the street, especially if it impacts his development of his property. The second reason that we felt that it was best is, one, is that road is really too close to the intersection on Victory Drive where the signal is, but then it's also a limited distance along his property where he had a previously developer that was interested in the property, and we couldn't give them a full access because of the conflict of the cars coming off of Levee Road with a driveway that would have a left turn movement out of it. So you'll see it's really close to his property line, so it'd be a very short distance, and that could create a safety issue, and it wouldn't meet our ordinances. So that's
Or
one.
what we're talking about closing is the yellow
Yes, ma'am.
strip?
Yes, ma'am, and we would put a turnaround at the end of it.
And would there be something at south end of that yellow strip so that people can't continue to drive up in there?
No, ma'am, it would be curb and gutter, and then he would have a driveway off of that area as well. Benning Drive goes up to South Lumpkin Road, and Levee Road goes over to South Lumpkin Road. So those cars still have a way to that area.
No, well, what I'm wondering is, are cars going to come off Victory Drive onto Benning Road and then turn into that yellow?
They won't be able to.
Won't be able to?
That'll be closed.
Okay.
And the road would be, well, depending on, we want to do it in partnership when that site is developed, so that we make sure that it all fits well and it doesn't impact his access. But in all likelihood, that would eventually go away and be something landscaped, if it's not part of a parking lot or something like that.
And Mr. City Manager, you said that the owner is in agreement with this?
Yes.
He's right there.
They're represented here tonight. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. So I think we have a motion and a second. Okay, and we've concluded discussion, so everyone can record their votes electronically. All right, and it does pass. Yay.
We worked so hard.
Thank you for your patience. We appreciate you. All right, moving along.
Madam Mayor, the next item on my agenda, we've delayed it, the Whitesville Walk variance request. We'll bring that back at the next business meeting.
Okay.
Next, I've got the E911 dispatch donation. Approval is requested to accept a cash donation on behalf of Columbus 911 Dispatch from deceased citizen Melinda.
Everybody, please come to Gus's on me.
Thank
This,
you.
Wait a minute, I'm going to get jealous.
Yeah.
I'm going to get jealous.
This donation is from deceased citizen Melinda Mewborn for 911 operations. And let me just say to you that Per Synovus Securities, Ms. Mewborn passed away, and she listed Columbus 911 Dispatch as one of the beneficiaries of her individual retirement account. Synovus Securities is seeking to disperse the gift to the city, which is currently in the form of cash and securities. And it's my understanding that she appreciates what our 911 did for her deceased husband, their response and all that they did, and she wanted to do something because of what they did, and this is what she's doing.
Wow. That's motion and second. I hope the chief's watching, and we need to commend 911. I'll make sure they get a call tomorrow, but that's wonderful. So a motion and second. There's no further discussion. You may record your votes electronically. All right, and it does pass.
We've got a $100,000 juvenile drug court grant, a 10% cash match.
We've got a motion and second of the approval of a grant for the juvenile drug court. There's appears to be no discussion, so you can record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
We've got a $300,000 family drug court grant with a 10% cash match.
We've got a motion and a second for the family drug court grant. There appears to be no discussion, so you may record your votes electronically. And it does pass.
Got a $750,000 no match juvenile justice incentive grant.
We've got a motion and second for the Juvenile Justice Incentive Grant. There's no discussion, so you may record your votes electronically. And it passes. And we want to thank those from the juvenile court, the family court that's here tonight. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for all you do. It makes a tremendous difference in our jail population and the number of citizens that return to productive lives. So thank you for what you do.
Next, I've got a management agreement between the City of Columbus and Muscogee County School District regarding the development, management, operation, and security of a connection between data centers owned by CCG and data centers owned by the Muscogee County School District. This interconnect, if approved, is of mutual benefit to both city and school district and will allow for data backup, possible disaster recovery, and shared wireless. And we're asking for your approval on this tonight.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. There is discussion. Counselor, let's see here. Counselor Thomas.
I would like for the IT director, if he would, to talk about what you see as the future financial considerations for this operation.
Okay, currently, the agreement would be that we negotiate any, but as far as cost to the CCG, we don't anticipate any cost other than usual operating expense because the school district is, I can't speak for the board, but I think their design is to actually pay for the actual connection. And then from then on, it's just business as usual. It gives us another site to do backups, data storage, and we won't be sharing data. In other words, we won't get into any of their systems, and they can't get into any of our systems. And of course, the mutual benefit is that our Parks and Rec centers, the school district wireless will allow the kids to be on school district network and can do all their schoolwork on our facilities, and it allows our police officers and public safety to be on the school wireless, which is in 63 locations throughout the city, and do their jobs. So that's really the main reason for the agreement today, is kind of to put our RMS out there further, or the records management for the police, but we don't see any additional cost other than what we already use to operate. In other words, we're not putting wireless access points on their network. We're just using the ones that they have, and they'll be using what we have. And the only actual cost, which would have to be negotiated, and if it was more than $10,000, it would come to the council, but we don't even see that as an expense to the city. We see that The school district, we think, of course, it hadn't been to their board and they're on spring break, but we think that they would be the ones that pay for the initial interconnect, and then from then on, we would just share resources that we already have in place. We wouldn't put additional resources in place.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes discussion, so you may record your votes electronically. All right, and it does pass.
I've got purchases, I've got on-call services for installation or replacement of sidewalks and ADA ramps throughout the city. We have various vendors that we would approve. This is an RFP, and we're asking for your approval.
We've got a motion and second for approval. There's discussion. We have Counselor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, just very briefly, one of the questions that I'm asked on a regular basis is about sidewalks, and this is, tell me.
I'll let Engineer Director tell you.
The question that I'm asked often is, so how do I get a sidewalk in my neighborhood? Or how do I get the sidewalk that's in my neighborhood repaired, or that sort of thing? This item, however, is for those sidewalks that have been approved, or you want to?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me a little bit on it.
I will. This is for an on-call service. We put together every year a list of streets where we have looked at them and approved them for sidewalk installation. And what this does is it gives us the ability to give that information out to several contractors, and they provide us a number. And that gets to be a 2 to 3 week process versus if we had to go out and do full plans and design work and bid it, it would be a 3 to 4 month process or longer. So it just kind of expedites. But how we develop that list is we look at things primarily, schools are our top priority, where we know that we have children walking, and we coordinate that with the school district. The second priority is areas that we see a path where we see a lot of pedestrians walking, and we want to get them out of the streets or provide them a safer place to walk. And we look at those areas. We look at areas to where there's gaps. We were in a location the other day, and we noticed that the sidewalk didn't extend all the way to the intersection. It stopped about a lot short. So those are the kind of areas that we look at and have the highest priorities. Anybody can call in and request, and we'll put it on the list.
Call in a request to 311?
Yes, ma'am. And they'll send it over to us, and we put it on a list, but it may be several years before it is selected.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I think that's all. So did we have a motion and second? I'm sorry, for the first, for item A. What's that? Oh, yeah, I think we have a motion second. And so you all may record your votes electronically. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Have on-call services for installation or replacement of storm sewer, combined sewer systems throughout the city. We have various vendors.
Got a motion and second for approval of item B for on-call services for installation or replacement of storm sewer combined systems. And there's no discussion, so you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Have overhead door installation and maintenance services, annual contract with River City Door Company.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. It does pass. Sir, thank you very much for your patience this evening. Appreciate you being here.
Have office furniture for facility maintenance.
D through G. Okay, we've got a motion and second to approve items D through G. That's office furniture for facilities maintenance, new location, debt collection services. It's an annual contract. street sweeper engine repair, and garbage truck engine repair. Is there any discussion on items D through G? Seeing none, you may record your votes electronically. And it passes.
Next on my agenda is item H, which I know you've all been waiting for. Has to do with the Mott Green. Staff, let me just, for those here and those watching, I'll just say that city staff initiated this project in 2015, and a former deputy city manager handled the project, and the project has the support of...
But I'm sorry, Mr. City Manager, I have to correct you. Actually, started in 2009 with the CSU people and blah, blah, blah.
That's
so
right.
I just didn't want there to be incorrect information.
It goes back
Yeah.
beyond that,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to go back that far.
Okay.
And so, it's been shared with, organizations like TSIS, and they've offered to help maintain the area with city support. And I know that the Georgia DOT representative has indicated support for this project, Sam Welborn. This area is the last remaining area of the Riverwalk to be reworked. Back in March of 2015, the project was presented to council as part of the 14th Street Plaza project. In August of 2016, funding was authorized for the project under Resolution 28316. In December of 2016, Resolution 43216 authorized the city manager to enter into an agreement with GDOT, Georgia Department of Transportation. It's an $800,000 federal state grant with $200,000 required local match. An RFP was issued in early 2017. It was RFP number 170013. In May of 2017, design was awarded to Hick Bertishaw, and council approved in Resolution 15117. The project would renovate and refurbish the last section of the Riverwalk. 2 large brick monuments would be cleaned and repaired. Existing monument lighting to be replaced with efficient LED lighting. Landscaping to be refurbished or replaced. Damaged planters to be repaired. Handrails to be replaced. Settled brick and concrete areas to be removed, repaired, and replaced. Signage to be replaced. A replica of a historic town lattice bridge to be installed, leading from the plaza out toward the river. Bridge to be used as an observation area overlooking the river for pedestrians only. Bridge to be a historical interpretive element as to how bridges were built in the 1800s by Horace King. Environmental archaeological studies required. Such studies are normally required when using federal funds. We had to do it when we did the Total Systems projects, the Riverwalk project, 13th Street to 14th Street, we did it, 14th Street to City Mills, 14th Street, the pedestrian bridge, 14th Street pedestrian plaza, and for Whitewater. And we felt because of these recent studies, we did not think a full study would be needed, but Georgia Department of Transportation has ruled that past studies are not current because they are more than a year old. Therefore, a new study is required to proceed with this project. So in order for this project to go forward, the additional studies must be performed at a cost of $107,605.21. Match for the grant has been identified under the T-SPLOST Projects Fund, and so council approved this $1 million grant, which included $800,000, as I said, from the federal, state governments, and $200,000 for local match. The $107,000 is not additional money, but would be a part of the already approved local match, already approved $200,000. It's a part of that local match and would be for environmental archaeological studies. And so there is no request for additional funding beyond what has already been approved for the project that I've outlined. And so we are here tonight requesting council's approval to move forward. Without your approval, the project cannot move forward. And so the money is already there, already funded. There's no additional money. The $107,000 that we are focused on tonight is a part of the $200,000, and we need city council approval to move this forward. And so, Madam Mayor, that's what's on the table, and we're asking for approval tonight.
Okay. We've got a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay, we have discussion. We have Councilor Thomas.
I would say to my fellow councilors, I had several conversations with our colleague, Councilor Davis, who is not here tonight because he is out of town on business. And he has asked that we postpone taking this vote until he can be here and participate in the discussion. And so I would, to that end, make a motion that we table this until the first meeting in April.
Okay. Okay. That's a superseding motion. So it would be a motion and a second. We've got two folks lined up. Does anybody want to speak to the motion? We've got Councilor Allen and Councilor Pugh. Okay, we got Councilor, do you want to speak to the motion to continue? Okay, all right. All right, all those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay. I know we've had some folks who have been waiting very patiently in case we've had a lot of councilor questions. We've been trying to get them information. I appreciate you. Just want council to know, certainly I presume I can make this representation. Pat Frey is here with Home for Good. She has some very specific and possibly interesting to you thoughts about homelessness. I know Alva Johnson with the paper did an article today, and Pat has some contrary views on her professional opinion that she would, I'm sure, be willing. We don't need you tonight, Pat. Thank you, though. But I just wanted to let them know that you're here, you're willing, and we appreciate your patience. And they can certainly contact you individually. And Alva may want to access your expertise as well. I know you took exception to a few things in that article. Also, of course, everybody knows Neil Clark and some of the issues that have come up about design and so forth. And are you here, Matt, for that purpose? Are you a resource utility resource as well?
Yeah, my company, Caleb's, is doing some of the environmental work.
Okay, all right. So, so those are three resources if council feels they want to reach out to individuals who are available to speak to various things. And we have also gotten information about property ownership, which isn't a problem. That land is ours. So any other thing that comes up, either email us or reach out to these various resources, and maybe when we come back, the first business meeting in April, we'll have what we need to make a decision. Okay?
Thank you,
Okay,
Madam.
hold on, we've got Mayor Pro Tem.
If I may, I do want to say to you and to the city manager, I appreciate the efforts that you have put into making sure that we have information. We've been inundated with information, but I appreciate your taking that effort, and I'm sure that it will come to a good end, serve its purpose. So thank you for that effort.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, you wanted to be heard? Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, I know we're not voting on this tonight, but however, I would hope that we would have a chance to, once it's approved, that we would have a chance to talk about the design.
Neil, is that I know, again, I hate to pull you up because they've said they're going to postpone it, but if you could just nod or shake your head, yes or no, okay, if you want to speak, is it possible, are there alternatives to the design that, I know the point is for it to be a replica. If it's not a replica, then what's the point? So
Yeah.
would you just speak to alternative designs?
Yeah, the project right now is in the concept report stage, which is a very early stage with the DOT. They have finished their studies on that site, and now they are in the midst of creating the reports that result from those studies, and that'll be distributed and commented on. So, yes, it's an early stage. We still have not done our drawings for the project. Our engineering consultant, who is an expert in these kinds of bridges, has not started his work yet. We still have a little work to do to, resolve what we want to do with the budget money we have available. So there'll be some changes there, I'm sure. But we feel like we have a very strong concept. I'd be happy to talk to any of you. If any of you want to come by the office, be happy to talk to you about what the design represents and why we hope you move forward with it.
Okay, we've got, okay. And so that's great, and Neil, I appreciate that, and I know you guys know this, but you can call Neil, and it seems like a lot of times when counselors call them individually, you get a lot of good information, more than you do when it's batting around up here sometimes, and so you might want to take Neil up on that offer, so.
Please do.
Thank you, Neil. All right, I appreciate you guys. Again, thank you for spending your evening meal time with us. All right, Mr. City Manager. Oh, wait. We've got the, Mr., you want?
Before his agenda ends.
No, he's got one more item. Okay.
Madam Mayor, the final item on my agenda is the acquisition of Georgia Ports Authority property at 800 and 824 Lumpkin Boulevard. And like with Mott's Green, I think it's important that those here and those watching by television hear the background and provide them all of the information we can possibly provide them. This property was deeded to the Georgia Ports Authority by the city June of 1961. And around 1929, the site was utilized as a dumping ground by the city of Columbus. Between 1962 and 1966, the site was developed for use as a chemical storage and distribution facility. These properties currently house an above-ground storage tank farm with secondary containment, an above-ground piping system, a rail unloading area, a truck loading rack, and 2 buildings totaling 34,000 square feet of office and warehouse space. The Georgia Ports Authority is willing to deed the property to the city. Most recently, it was leased by the Georgia Ports Authority to Omega Partners 3, LLC. Omega Partners vacated the property around January 2017. The property is now vacant. The estimated cost to remove the tanks and other structures is $636,800. This is to clear the entire area, tanks, building and railroad lines, grass and seed. The fence would remain. This does not include the dock area. The contractor would have to get with Army Corps to be in the river for proper removal. We have a purchase and sales agreement on the property. The Georgia Ports Authority would provide the city with $300,000 at closing, which the city proposes to use towards the demolition or for any other purpose related to the restoration of the property. The city will provide funding towards the demolition of the tanks, structures, or other improvements on the site in excess of the $300,000 being provided by Georgia Ports Authority. Georgia Ports Authority will waive the $60,000 plus that was due as reimbursement for the previous cleanup costs incurred by the authority due to city's previous dump site. A title certification has been prepared for the property by the Beal Law Firm, and it was determined that this site does not carry any restrictions for future use like some of the other areas in South Commons. Phase 1 environmental site assessment was conducted on the property by Terracon Consultants, Inc. on August 11, 2015. A limited site investigation was conducted on the property by Terracon Consultants, Inc. on January 20, 2016. Analyzed 14 soil borings to evaluate potential impacts on the subsurface soils and groundwater on the property. No contamination was found above regulatory limits in any of the soil or groundwater samples collected. Excerpts for lead found at one location. The lead contamination was limited to a 725 square feet area within the northeast corner of the site where the past dumping occurred on the property. 220.76 tons of impacted soil was removed from the site. On August 31st, 2016, Georgia Environmental Protection Division, EPD, declared that no release exceeded a reportable quantity occurred on the property and issued what they refer to as an HSRA non-listing notification letter stating no additional work was warranted on the site. Acquisition of this property will cease any continued use as a fuel storage site and will allow the city to remove the tanks, structures on the site, which will enhance the appearance of riverfront property and allow for future redevelopment to occur. This property is simply an eyesore, a nuisance, and not the highest and best use for our riverfront area. Approval is requested to enter into a sales agreement for the property located at 800 and 824 Lumpkin Boulevard and any residual rights along the riverfront from the Georgia Ports Authority. And so we're asking for your approval tonight to enter into this sales agreement for this property. Madam Mayor, we're asking council to approve this.
And Mayor Pro Tem wants to speak too. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
First, okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, and one thing, Mr. City Manager, I wanted to clear up, and I can't remember, Alva, if it was in the paper or an opinion or whatever, but there was some, I don't know if it's confusion or just need for further clarification. The tracks on the property will be removed. So all the asphalt, concrete, all of that is included in that $630-something thousand. The tracks on the property will be removed. Now, there's a possibility that the tracks that go into the public street, now we might be able to chat with the rail company about why have them, but that's a different company. So, but the rails on the property,
Sure.
Those will be removed. So I just wanted to clarify that. So with that, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry you.
That's all right. When I was reading some more information on this project, I just want to say hallelujah. And I'll be so glad when they're gone, because I know for the past 30 years we have talked about trying to get rid of those tanks. And they are an eyesore. And I think the property could be best used for something that would really beautify Columbus and bring more tourism into Columbus. And I'm also reminded that when we did the Oxbow Meadows, when we did the golf course down at Oxbow Meadows, we had to do some additional work on the old landfill that was out there. Because the city had at one point in time been part been honored. And we may have to do some additional, what do I want to say?
Remediation.
On this property too, but I put it in the same category as the other land.
And that's a very important point, that even though we may make absolutely no concessions because we would fight everything to the bitter end, but we are in the chain of title regardless. So if we had this situation before, and so I'll use that as an example. Apparently, we had some property that we had given to somebody else, and they deeded it to a third party. And even though we had nothing to do with it because we were in the chain of title, ultimately we had to clean some things up. So whether this transfer takes place or not, we will forever be in the chain of title. And it's better to be have the property back, having had been in the chain of title and having had some offset, significant offset for remediation, and having had someone else pay for the environmental studies. And no, I will say one other thing that came out today that I did not appreciate, that I think council would appreciate, is apparently those railroad, the rails themselves are quite valuable scrap. For instance, when we turned in the rails to trails, which obviously was much, much longer, it was $500,000 in scrap. So we don't know, because we don't know until we can weigh them, but spitballing and, sort of guessing, I mean, it could be tens of thousands of dollars that we would get. Anything we can scrap and sell, obviously, will offset anything we may pay. So just know our people are kind of working that. So anyway, Laura obviously is sitting there chock full of information.
Well,
and I know there were some questions about the docks, so I don't know if you want to.
Unless there are questions, we would ask council to approve this tonight.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. You may record your votes electronically. Okay, is that everybody? One more. Yeah, let's see. Somebody might have to hit it again. Mayor Pro Tem? No. Councilor Thomas? Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Every now and then it sticks. All right, and it is approved.
And Madam Mayor, that concludes my agenda.
Okay, that concludes yours. Mayor, Madam Clerk. Oh, wait, hold on a second. We've got Councilor Woodson.
Well, I'm not sure if Donna's still here. I wanted to bring this up. Donna had already answered my questions, but I wanted to bring it up because I had some constituents ask about 3rd Avenue, where St. Luke's School is, that there wasn't any signs for speeding, slowing down the zone. So I wanted Donna to say what her findings were, so that those individuals that asked about that can see that we did respond and we did get an answer back.
Yes, ma'am, we were contacted by the school with the concerns of speeding, as well as notification of it being in a school zone. It is not listed on our state permit as a school zone. 3rd Avenue is not, but 11th Street was. But we're going to go ahead. I have contacted Georgia DOT to get their input on what they think may be appropriate, and we're going to add some additional signage for warning the motorists they're entering into a school zone up ahead at the intersection. So there'll be some additional signage, replacing some existing signs, and maybe even some markings in the road to try to draw more attention to that.
Okay, thank you. The other one, I don't know if it's Clifton, or you, the mayor, or city manager. I've been thinking since the announcement of the Regional Medical Center partnering with Atlanta, I've been thinking since that, what happens with that 30-year contract?
Actually, it's so funny, and I'll just say, because I said today, the day I saw that in the newspaper, I called Clifton Bay. I don't even think he'd gotten out of the shower yet that morning. I think it was 7:05 when I called him. But we'll need to see the contracts, obviously, but if it is as they purport it to be, the contracts will continue. I suspect they took a lot of effort to make sure those contracts continue, but we'll continue to be vigilant in looking at that.
Yeah, I wanted to see where
Clifton, did
we
you
were
want to
with
speak
that.
to that? Hold on a second, let's let Clifton say a few words.
Just briefly, because we have talked with the general counsel for the Medical Center Hospital Authority and now Piedmont Columbus Regional, their local general counsel. And the Medical Center Hospital Authority is to continue operations just as they always have. And that's who our 3 mills goes to under the contract, which will be up in 2022. But
Yeah, I was just going to say.
we have looked into that, as well as Mr. Lomax, as attorney for the tax assessors, and all indications are that the hospital authority will maintain the same operations that they have in the past. Now, if something changes and we find out about it, we'll let you know. But right now, we expect they want to keep getting that money every year under the contract for another, I guess, 3 years.
So we just have about 3 years left.
Right, but it does furnish indigent care for Muscogee County and the prisoner care up to a certain amount, dollar amount, which we would have to do with some provider, even if it was not the Medical Center Hospital Authority. We would have to have a contract with somebody.
Well, we knew that.
Right,
We
but
just, I know one time when we were questioning it,
Right.
we had received a better offer, but
Right.
unfortunately, we couldn't get out of the contract. So
That's
when
right.
this came up, the first thing I thought about, and then I forgot all about it, and then I remember, like you said, getting out of the shower. I remember, and I said, let me ask if whatever happened with, it's
we did.
violated now.
We had discussions a good while back when it first came up, and have talked to their general counsel a couple of times, but we'll keep you posted if anything changes. But right now, that hospital authority continues operations just as they have in the past.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we only have 3 more years.
All right, we've got Counselor Barnes.
Don, I got a question. I know I had asked about Grant Road, and on my referral, it says, this is the response I got. Based on our pavement management survey and database, Grant Road is only 3 streets. You have to save left now. Grant Road from Wilson to Byron has 100 PCI, pavement condition index, in 2014. And using that, the inference is that that section was paid before that date, maybe in 2013. So that was from Wilson to Byron. Then the referral goes on to say the other 2 sections of Grant Road, and all those sections are pretty much equally length of Grant Road between Byron to Hart and Hart to the dead end, have PCIs, that's the pavement condition index, of 57 and 58 respectively. We don't have the date for when they were resurfaced last. Now, maybe someone looked quickly, but I know we're too professionals not to have, if the 3 streets, if it's only 3 streets long, and you did 1 section, you got to know where the other 2 sections were paved. We're too professional not to know that. Okay, so I want to know when those two sections were paved, using either something, you've got the information somewhere. I know we're too professional for that. And then the next thing I want to know is, when will those other 2 sections be paved? I'll be honest with you, that 1 section that you have from Wilson to Byron is just as bad as the other 2. And the people are complaining, and I don't blame them. They're horrendous. Even where it's patched at, if you're staying there because of the road and the traffic, you could feel where you sink in a little bit. I walk it. So I want to know when the last time that Grant Road from Byron to Hart and Hart to the dead end were paved, and then when will they be paved again? Those are the things I want to know. I know we're too professional, and they're not that far apart, to pave 1 and don't know whether the other 2. I know I'm not even going to accept that. And then I want to know when it will be paved, either going by this PCI. How many streets do we pave a year?
We do, I can tell you miles more than.
You told me
beyond
miles.
many streets.
But I'm saying if you can even go by how many you paved, divide it into the ones that you have until you get to that PCI for Grant Road of 5758. But I need to let the residents know who are concerned about this, because they drive it, the cars go through, they're bumpity, and the citizens deserve to know what the deal is. They need to know when the street's going to be paved, so it at least gives them something to look forward to. A really nice lady, Miss Dove, has lived on that street for 40-some odd years, and she says she cannot remember, when it was paved. It was paved, they took a collection there, because it wasn't even, like, maybe part of the city or something, I don't know. And she said, but it hasn't been paved since then. And walking it, I can tell you, it needs some work. And so we need to take a relook at Grant Road, please. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That then concludes the city manager's agenda, and we'll turn it over to our clerk.
Madam Mayor and members of council, on the clerk's agenda have several temporary street closing applications which have already been approved by the police department. Just for the council's information, from March 19th to November 1st, the Uptown Ride on Bikes Tuesday night rides. On, March 31st, the Nazareth Baptist Church block party for Resurrection Day. On April the 1st, the Uptown Easter on Broad. April the 6th to...
We've got Councilor Thomas.
Ms. Washington, I have a question about the first application here to close Broadway for 8 months, one night a week. I guess my curiosity is the other businesses that are on Broadway. Is this closing both sides of Broadway, do you know?
From the 1000 block of Broadway.
Is it closed? This is not the concert series. This is Ride on Bikes every Tuesday night for 8.5 months.
We can find out more information.
Well, I'm just real curious about how that is going to work, if it's going to close both sides of the street, both sides of Broadway, the north and south. And the other thing is that I know that I've been down on Tuesdays for the last couple of Tuesdays, and they have had cones out in the street closing off a section of Broadway during the daytime that says for Ride on Bikes activities. And it's, I just want to make sure that our traffic folks are okay with all of that. It's very distracting to drivers. It's hard to get in and out of parking places. And of course, right along that road are a number of restaurants along that block. And so I just am real concerned about what's going on. And I don't want to stop Ride on Bikes if we can help it, but I do want it to be conducive to other travel. So if you can find out a little bit more about that, I would appreciate it.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
Item number 4, this is the one for the Uptown Friday night concert series from April the 6th through May 25th. We have one for April the 13th for Warm Springs Road Connector for the JP Auto Care event. April the 13th, Uptown Creative South Mixer. April the 13th through April the 15th, the Uptown Paddle South Festival. April the 14th, the Mercy Med Gala and Fundraiser. And then April the 28th, a birthday block party for Melody Drive. We have a biographical sketch of Miss Latasha Lee. This is Councilor Huff's nominee.
Got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
Minutes of various boards.
We've got a motion and a second that the minutes be received, and that's the minutes from the Board of Tax Assessors, the Civic Center Advisory Board, the Columbus Golf Course Authority, Convention of Visitors Board of Commissioners, the Planning Advisory Commission, and the Uptown Facade Board. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our board appointments, on the building authority, we still need a replacement for Mr. Kel Jackson, who resigned several months ago. We just confirmed Ms. Lee. Also, we're waiting to hear back from Mr. Miller regarding his representative as the Hockey's Association. On the Circle Commission, Mr. John Jackson has been nominated to succeed Mr. Danny Archisiba. He can be confirmed.
We've got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our Community Development Advisory Council, we need a recommendation for District 3. Ms. Kendall is not eligible to succeed herself, as well as District 6. Mr. Cook is not eligible, as well as District 10. On our Comprehensive Plan Stakeholders Committee, we still need a representative for District 5, as well as District 10. Cooperative Extension, Mr. Robert Benson has resigned. We'll need a replacement for that seat. On our Crime Prevention Board, we have 2 nominees. Since Councilor Davis is not here, I'll hold this over to our next meeting if there are no objections from council. On our Hospital Authority, we have 2 seats, Mr. James Webster as well as Mr. Edward Gaffney has resigned. We've got 1 nominee of Ms. Verona Campbell. We need 2 additional nominees for these seats. On our Keep Columbus Beautiful Commission, Mr. Kenneth Lure has been nominated. He can be confirmed.
We've got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
And we still need a replacement for Ms. Pulaski, represented District 2. On our Liberty District Advisory Committee, we still need a recommendation for Districts 2, 4, 5, 7, and 10. On our Recreation Advisory Board, I am in contact with the school district. They're working on a replacement for Mr. Battles. On our Retirees Health Benefits Committee, Mr. Tom Barron has been nominated to succeed Mr. Billy Watson. Mr. Jack Kinsman has been renominated for another term, as well as Mr. Lester Massey. Ms. Esther Ratcliffe has been nominated to succeed Ms. Janice Beebe, and Ms. Rhonda Davis has been nominated for a second term. They can be confirmed.
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our tree board, we have 2 seats that are vacant. Dr. Roger Brown and Ms. Cassie Renfro has resigned. We'll need a nominee for each of these 2 seats. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. We have a request for an executive session on matters of litigation. And so I'll entertain, I'm sorry, we've got Councilor Baker. Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to request that the meeting on May 22nd, I'm sorry, be moved from a night meeting to a morning meeting, followed by the budget hearing.
Okay. Is that a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, we've got a motion and second, and I just want to make sure that, have you cleared that with the city manager, just to make sure, like, there's not something? Yeah. Okay, right. We're not going to be here, so we're just going to have to do it. Pam, would you get with the city manager and make sure we smooth all issues out?
Usually on election
We
day, we try
always
to make
do.
some accommodations
Absolutely.
for people, and so that was the intent of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just didn't think of it. So that's moving it to the morning at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Okay. All right, we've got a motion and second. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So we had, I was calling for a motion to go into executive session on matters of litigation. We got a motion. Is there a second? All right, all those in favor, please state aye. All right, clear the chambers, please. Thank you. All right, we have just exited an executive session related to matters of litigation. No votes were taken. This concludes our agenda, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. A second. All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we are adjourned. We'll see you next time for a proclamation resolution session. Thank you all.